Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Staff Sergeant Samuel Cole, and I am with the North Dakota National Guard's Public Affairs Office. And today I have a special guest. He's my boss. That's kind of weird, right? That's what I thought. This gentleman comes from the great state of Vermont. He's got an extensive background in public affairs, videography, photography. He's just a jack of all trades, and he's my new boss. So how's it going today, Nate?
Good. Yeah, all that really means is I'm very good at drinking coffee. That's really what it turns into is
gotcha.
You hit that certain point in your military career where you transfer from monsters and energy drinks to just coffee of the good variety.
Well, right. Yeah, you were telling me earlier that you had like a blueberry type. I mean, actually, I smell it. Like you're sitting across from me and I smell this. Talk about this coffee.
Yeah, so it's definitely one of those things of good story like is in the Civil War when people would write letters back home. It was, young men writing back to their girlfriends, their wives, their families. And you'd expect them to say how the war is going or how much they miss them. But actually, the thing people wrote most about is coffee. So it comes down to like, you're expecting, baby, I miss you. Like, the war's really tough right now. We're doing great things. When really it's like, hey, do you have any coffee you can send me? It's very important that I get that. So, I drink my coffee black. So I definitely do some of the flavors. And there's definitely a lot of companies out there in Vermont where I came from had a lot of really good coffee roasters. But when the previous deployment I was on to Saudi Arabia, the chaplain came in, who is the greatest chaplain I've met in my military career. He came in and he brought us 10 pounds of coffee. And really at that time, for everybody that's deployed, been away for a long time, was like, it doesn't matter. Like coffee just tastes great, whatever. But then he delivered this, and it was, we call it, holy coffee because it's from the chaplain. And he just dropped it off, and that's all we would drink is that. And he got us some of the fruity stuff of like there was like a blueberry and there was like a cinnamon, and it was like these summer flavors. So now it's kind of nostalgic of like do that because like I generally don't eat blueberries, but I drink blueberry like just because of him, and I'm like bring back those great times in the desert we had together.
Exactly, and it's if you don't like fruit, drink stuff that tastes like fruit.
Yeah.
Then it's not the same as eating fruit, but to us it's our justification for saying we've had some sort of kind of fruit.
Like, give me this like smoothie, or okay, let me drink this fruit juice that's just got all kinds of sugar in it. That's not
concentrated.
Yeah. So it's good stuff, but and that's one of the things. So my background. So I'm actually really happy when I showed up and you said you want to do a podcast because I think it's great. And I think it's one of those things that people are still paying attention to. Where public affairs in the military, I started back in 2009, and I did it in the Army. I've done it in the Air Force Reserve. I worked at Dover Air Force Base for a while. We could talk about that later. But and deployed to Kosovo, and went to Saudi Arabia as a S6 once I, as we say, went to the dark side and commissioned as an officer. But there's a lot of things where you try and follow those trends of what's good, what's not good. And sometimes as a military, you're trying to catch up with the newest thing, the newest technology, and podcasts have been around for a while, but actually taking part in doing something properly, because like when we talked about this before, like you don't want to do something if you're not going to actually have meaningful impact and it's a good product, because you don't want to put your name on and you don't really want to waste your time when you could be doing other things. So I think a podcast is great because I can imagine like, all right, North Dakota, like, all right, I'm driving up to Camp Grafton. Like, I'm going to get there in 2 hours. What am I going to do on my drive? Well, all right, get a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You can hang out virtually with us, which is like the best part about it. Well, and that, that's kind of the, when we talk about military and trying to be up with the times, the military's changed a bunch recently. I mean, I've been in for 10 years now, and from when I got in to now, there's public affairs things, but from somebody that was outside of public affairs and now works in public affairs, to see how much it's changed. I mean, from podcasts to video styles to even just the campaigning. I mean, recruiting is pumping with a bunch of different social media to try to cater to, not just our current audience, newer audiences too, but also just a kind of, I don't know how you say it. It's almost like during COVID happened, right? And no one knew how to have a meeting outside of a building. And then virtually we came up with Teams, and, now we're doing video casts. When it works, it's awesome. And this is kind of one of those things. And like you said, the whole point behind this podcast is to make it relevant, but also, make us relevant kind of a little bit more and cater to a larger audience, but also like to just have a discussion. Like, there's a lot of times where, I mean, when you're the guy on the ground and you don't know what's going on above, it's a way for, a couple of senior people at a specific base, CUI, don't disclose that CUI, huh? But it allows people to kind of just listen in and also maybe just have I don't know. It's easier to have a conversation with somebody than it is to watch a video and hopefully get the right message that they're trying to portray. So,
well, absolutely. Same thing with all right, you're hitting all those platforms. All right, we're on Facebook. Okay, we're sending things out on Instagram. We're doing reels. We're doing stories. Updating the website. But you're actively, okay, let's go follow those things. But I know a lot of people are actively listening to podcasts on their phones when they're driving, or they have them programmed on their computer, and it's part of that routine. Or audiobooks, same thing. So you have those routines where if okay, once a month, twice a month, I can listen to this podcast that's, an hour long, or I can stockpile them when I have that long drive. Like when I drove here from Vermont, it took me like 4 days pulling a U-Haul in my car and all my stuff. So I'm going 55 miles an hour. Like the amount of content I just listen to, and I mean the same thing I've done with the books when I'm doing like long road trips of like, all right, I'm 16 hours of audiobook. Like, okay, let's do that, because can do so much music where people will start stockpiling this. All right, I'm going to listen to 20 hours of your podcast in one go and just binge it.
Yeah,
because that's
Joe Rogan.
Like I'm just going to binge absolutely everything you've talked about.
Exactly.
And like people could pick and choose, where I know that's what I would do in those topics you want to talk about, because there is that disconnect of, okay, a good chunk of everybody in the National Guard is part-time.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is. Their M Day, they come do their AT, they do their weekends, like that's what they do. And they miss out on like some of these things. And a lot of it for me is always like those benefits, and you talk to people and they just don't know what's available to them. And like they reach out and they're like, oh, well, education doesn't talk to me about this. I'm like, well, they're trying, but like, are you
actively trying to find?
Are you also like trying to reach out to them? Have you noticed like they did this? Like, oh, well, okay, I guess that. And like they need someone to talk to them. And when drill weekend comes, you're from start to go, you have to do all these things, and like we can't just sit down and like, all right, we're going to take the next 5 hours and go through every single little niche benefit that everybody can do. Like, oh, here's your home loan that you could do. Here's this for SGR, and here's this for you're deploying. Like, let's talk about how you can like end your leases properly, and your credit card interest rates, and all these things that are like, there's just so much where, okay, how am I going to get 10 hours of content into this drill when we're still, we got to go do this, and we got to do this training, and we got to do this training. So giving another avenue. So it's just a lot of different options for it.
Yeah, and that kind of, I guess that brings me, like, this happened recently at drill. We had, North Dakota just recently, for National Guard soldiers, is no longer state tax. We're now state tax exempt. And like, they're like, why is my pay so much more? Did I do something wrong? And as a previous admin person, I'm like, what just happened recently? Our worlds are hectic the way it is. And I was like, oh no, there's tax. Did you guys not hear about that? And they're like, no. And do you follow Facebook, Instagram, blah blah blah? And they're like, no. It's one of those things where we're just social media is such a good way to indirectly just publish something, whether it's super detailed, not super detailed. Sometimes it's better just to throw up a photo and then people kind of look at it and be like, call this number. Oh, I should call that number, rather than you going and say, hey, did you know about the tax state exempt form, and bullet. So the nice part about this is we can kind of just have a discussion about, in the future, about those kind of benefits, whether it be for benefits or full-time employment, or heck, anything, or even talking about a new regulation, for gosh sakes. New CMA came up, so there may be some changes in the future when it comes to discipline programs or warrior tasks. And as an NCO, that's one of our things too, is you try to stay in tune with anything Army. But when you're that M-Day guy, it's really hard to open up a regulation. As a person that is an NCO of this younger generation, I look at a regulation and oh my gosh, it's just a lot to unpack. So it's a lot nicer when you can kind of hear somebody discuss a little bit about it, rather than you being the person that can't read that well, and now you're an NCO.
And that's the thing is, and you look at some of the easy regulations, right? I shouldn't say easier, but look at, all right, 2550. We're going to talk about, all right, I need to build a memorandum for something.
Ugh.
where is it going? Oh, I need this many signatures. How does it go? Like, well, no, you need fold the piece of paper in half, and that's when you know you're middle. Like, well, nobody's printing those out anymore. You're saving it as a PDF, and then they're signing. But then that's the thing is people want to do it the proper way, so then it's kicking it back because, oh, hey, your lines are off here, like because you're sending it to hire, and you also don't want to look like a dummy.
Yeah.
So you want to I want all my stuff to be right. But if nobody really is teaching those like in depth, and like I said, you go back to the M-Day soldier or airman, and they're like, okay, I got the template, but going this, and then something's off slightly, and then that's the biggest thing. Nobody wants to look bad in their job. Like they want to be that like professional of, okay, this is right, and because you want to hand off a really good product, but when those changes happen to those things, the same thing with, I mean, like when grooming standards change, when the new exemptions happen.
Beard 2025.
Like, so that's the thing. It's like who's like really telling them, like, okay, well, cool, we'll put out some information, like this is who you got to talk to. But having the avenue where someone could come in, because like that's one of the things we had in Vermont is we had a lot of people with religious exemptions, people of Jewish faith. And you get people like, why is that person, are they in the Guard? Are they like, no, yeah, they're in the Guard and they're a religious leader outside of the military. No, in the Guard, no, they're not a chaplain, because generally that's usually like, no, like he just outside of his Guard work, he's a leader in his community of the religious type. But he also is that mindset of, I want to do something different when I'm in the Guard. So he worked in healthcare in the Guard, because some people try and align the same type of work so that way they can like keep pushing it, and then other people are like, nope,
no, it's separate.
I want to do something totally different. Like that's the great thing of, no, when I come here, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be in engineering. It's like I want to do my cool guy stuff on the weekends, and then I want to be that desk guy Monday through Friday.
Kind of takes a detox, Well, I love this intro. That was fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about what it was like in Vermont.
So public affairs in Vermont, we dealt just the same as here. We were Army and Air. It was a joint adventure and everything. But we had different missions. So on the Air Force side, the wing we had was 158th Fighter Wing, phenomenal airmen that worked there. But the big mission they had was the F-35, and they were the first Air National Guard to receive the F-35, which to them it shows like, and they're very proud, like we're the best. Like that's what we got it. Like we are the best airmen. We have the best wing that fly fighter aircraft. That's why we got it. And it was like they're phenomenal, and like they've been doing that mission. And last year they did a very short notice deployment to go overseas for the NATO air policing mission. So they get called on a lot. The Army side is we have a infantry brigade combat team. They're the 86th Mountain. And they are the only designated mountain unit in the entire United States Army inventory.
You hear that, 10th? You hear that, 10th?
So the thing is, like, so they come and they train with Vermont. And that's where they go. So the Army Mountain Warfare School is based in Vermont. And that's one of the things is you go to that school and you get an identifier and you're ECHO qualified, which means you are a mountain warfare soldier. And that's the thing is you go back to your unit and then you spread that knowledge and increase what your capabilities are as that unit. Because when we look at mountainous terrain throughout the world and our adversaries, it's mountainous terrain. And that's the hardest place to fight, because if everything was flat like it is here in North Dakota, there's no hills, it's very, very depressing to look at. But it's fine. It's the prairies are nice, it's a change of scenery, but no mountains are a little bit disappointing.
Well, I mean, I would equate the mountain training that you have in the summer as like us climbing up a hill with 40 below plus wind chill with 10 feet of snow climbing up a hill.
But I mean, they do that as well. It was like some of my last drills.
Dang it.
In the unit in the winter, we're sleeping outside in your winter sleeping system with your bivy cover and that, and you're just with your buddies out in the woods,
freezing,
just staying warm, just making sure all your gear works. But it's all this mountainous terrain throughout the world, so you want to be trained for it, how to build proper hoist systems, how to properly evac people when you take a casualty, how to engage the enemy at high elevation when you're shooting down, and how that changes the trajectory of your bullets. So all that training occurs right there in Vermont, and they do training outside the state as well with mobile training teams, and they go to conferences, and they also run other programs that happen in other states, like Alaska does a course, and their course follows what is dictated by the Army Mountain Warfare School. And the Army Mountain Warfare School falls under a hierarchy of Fort Benning, Georgia, and the School of Infantry. So they do another reporting up to them, because that's really what it is that infantry level tactic of then employing the squad leader to make those decisions and employ mountain warfare soldiers to accomplish the mission they have. So that was our big thing in Vermont, was mountain warfare on the Army side, and the 86th Infantry Brigade Combat Team Mountain And then the original, Mountain Battalion, which was my previous unit before I came out here, was the S6 for them.
Gotcha.
So that was an awesome unit to be a part of. And being the S6 for them was definitely, making sure radios and communication was big, because when you have guys kilometers away separated by mountains, if they're not able to talk, it was definitely a lot of anger.
Yeah, whether the movie is 100% right or not, but like Lone Survivor, when that detachment of soldiers went up and tried to kill said person, and they lost communications, and they had to go out and use that's a huge thing. But yeah, I would not want to screw with somebody on his side of a hill.
And that was the best thing that a battalion commander had. He said to me, I don't need to always be able to talk to my units. He basically said that I have them in their positions because I trust their leadership to accomplish the mission, but they will always be able to talk to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So that was, no matter, everything I did was like, okay, based on that, is like, he told me, no matter what, he's like, I don't care where they are, they will be able to talk to me. So if they need assistance, if they need support, he's like, they can talk to me. There'll be times where they're going out and I won't be able to talk to them. Like, I don't need to reach out and pester them. He's like, I'm giving them my intent and their mission. They can accomplish that. But at any time they reach out to me, I can pick up a radio and talk to them.
Yeah.
They can reach me on a JCR. They can do this. So it was very, very, very good command guidance to receive that. I was like, you've given me everything I need to know of what you want to have happen. So that was nice when you have someone in a leadership position that will say, this is what I want from you, go make it happen. And not like, this is exactly how I want it to happen.
Right.
It's just, it's your job.
Yeah, go figure it out.
Make it happen.
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, and your directive is that simple. They can talk to me.
Yeah, there's been a lot over my tenure being in the military, and just working with other units outside of what I currently am assigned to. Like, you will have some of those leaders that are like, you radio checks every 10 seconds, and you're like, nothing's changed. I breathed a couple of times. My heart rate's a little up because this is my 5th time radio calling you in, but then you get those guys that like that, situation where it turns into a good thing. Yeah, having trust in your guys in any scenario, having visibility is visibility, but having trust is a completely different thing than visibility. So, gosh, when we keep talking about Modern Warfare, and I'm just going to say it so I get it off my head. I just can't stop thinking about Star Wars Episode 3 when Obi-Wan Kenobi's on the top of that little ridge, and he's like, I have the high ground, and then Anakin tries, and it's like the result of fighting a 10th mountain, or not 10th, excuse me, mountain person in Vermont. Man, I love that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So the Mountain Battalion, 3rd Battalion, 172nd Infantry actually did a training exercise over with our state partners under the State Partnership Program in North Macedonia. And we were defending a mountaintop at a Krivolak training area. And we were fighting against a ton of paratroopers. They were great trained, like phenomenal guys. They jumped in, and then their task was to take the mountain from us. That was the terrain they needed to take. But they're fighting an uphill battle. And that's the thing. And so we, in the training scenario, we're employing mortar systems, and it's the idea of like every step they're taking is uphill, aggressive terrain, and we have the high ground, come take it.
Yeah.
So is that thing is like they kept working their way up, but like it's tough. It's so tough. And like,
oh gosh, when I went to BLC in Utah, just that elevation and doing like the run back then, like that was, gosh, you felt your lungs were going to collapse. Everything was just heavier, because of the low oxygen and just. It's exhausting. I'm a Denver Broncos fan, but I could never do what Denver Broncos do up in their elevation, too. So, I can't even imagine what 10th, attending training on the side of a mountain. I'd be more afraid about somehow tripping after being exhausted and then being the one guy that's falling, and then you having to call your top dog and be like, hey, Sam fell down the hill. Mountain. It's a hill to us because we would have been up by Everest by now,
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it was some aggressive terrain, and those guys training out there, it's just wild. But, they sucked it up and kept going through it. But it's just one of those things of keep pushing through it, because it's like, only way we're going to get up that hill is if we keep going. And
lean forward.
And in this scenario, you keep amassing casualties, and you evacuate and plan and things like that. But they were given their objective of taking the hill, so that's where they kept pushing towards. And good on them, because those days were hot too. Like it was.
So I guess the question is though, did you win? Like, is there some bragging rights? I mean, tell me at least our guys won.
Well, that's the thing. So with that training scenario, it was like multi-level, right?
Oh.
So it's like, all right, so eventually, because we were the Op 4.
Yeah.
So eventually, like, okay, so they take the hill, and then we move into like the next training scenario and push through. So like eventually they take the hill, and we were also, they had, a 3-to-1 ratio. So we were essentially a company attacking a battalion.
Oh.
So they are the larger element and things like that. But it was showing us and them of how a smaller element could still delay them so much because we just have such an advantageous terrain assisting us. And that's the thing. It's like great. Like they had severe numbers on us, but we were able to produce, notionally like casualties just through our mortar systems of employing those, 1,000 meters away, and they're trying to spot where our systems are so they can call in and use their own mortars against us. But, you're trying to find 2 guys in a tube on a heavily forested mountainside.
That sounds like the podcast name. 2 guys and a tube. Like, let's just call the podcast 2 guys and a tube.
Yeah, like that. They'd be like, yeah, you could just a little microphone stand and like that. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like a lot of fun. And that's why I say, like, people that have, like, I'm really excited for the SPP here in North Dakota, too, because I think SPP is one of the coolest things the National Guard does.
Yeah.
Previously, I was in the Air Force Reserves. I left the Army National Guard, and then I went and joined them, and I worked in Dover Air Force Base, which I say they have, like, one of the best missions out there. It's where all of our casualties return home and to, be transferred to receive honors. And it's just a phenomenal mission work there. Excuse me. But so we do that at Dover. But that's one thing I missed was in Air Force Reserves, we didn't have the SPP mission.
Yeah.
So it's great to come here in North Dakota where we have those partners in Africa that we work with, and we can do all kinds of training. We can learn how they do things. They can learn how we do things. And you find those best practices. And a similar one we had when I was in Vermont was Senegal, which is nearby, right? But I mean, Africa is so big. When you say something's like, well, it's in the continent of Africa, like that can mean anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like saying like, oh, you're in the United States. Florida's next to California, right? And I'm like, it's we're in the United States, but we're it's not their neighbor.
Yeah.
You're going to be going forever to get there.
Yeah.
But it's Senegal's somewhat close. I think you could get there if you were driving in like a day.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be terrible, but it's still.
It's not 55 with the U-Haul.
Yeah, it's not that. It's like that. I'm like, I'd prefer to fly. A little bit better, but. So I got to do a couple of SPP trips there as well in Senegal. So I'm looking forward to some of those engagements here, just because the trips are great. Like I have yet to meet a soldier or airman that's gone on an SPP trip and hasn't been just like that was like the best thing I've ever done. Yeah,
and we have such a good relationship with Ghana, Togo, and Benin here. That's who we work with. We actually had 3 of their soldiers come over to our Best Warrior competition.
I thought that was so cool.
In Devil's Lake. And I tell you what, I have never seen somebody be able to run nonstop. And they bring so much more to the table. And that's the nice part about, partnership programs is that you can, for us, we have access to so much equipment, whether that be rappel towers and CBurn, like for a lot of these things that they can't do, so we can benefit with that. But then we go over to their environment and then work in their scenarios and their conditions and X, Y, and Z. And yeah, it's a fantastic program. Lieutenant Colonel McEvers, he is our state partnership program manager, and he has gone back and forth to Ghana like so many times. And I think it was 2 years ago or this last year they had just done a joint exercise. Basically, we set up a command and control point, something similar to that, and they had, or basically EMS and all of their first responders reacted to a natural disaster. And Sergeant Granger, who actually works in public affairs, she'll be back soon, she went and covered that, and it was like, holy cow, like just the amount. And I mean, on that scale too, to be able to have some sort of training. I mean, you and I just got back from the CBurn yesterday up at Devil's Lake, and that was fantastic. There's just so much to the state partnership program that it's just, you could keep squeezing and it'll never run dry. You know what I mean?
And you're hitting 20 years as well. So it's like a 20-year anniversary. So been a partner longer than some people have been in the National Guard.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is, well, in the National Guard, or for some, because they had new enlistees, like even they've been alive.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like one of those things of like you talk about it of like, you know, people that don't know, like state partnership came back in the early 90s with the breakup of, you know, former Yugoslavia and all those things. And it was the idea of we wanted to have partners in that region to work together. And you look at the expansion of how far that's come, and some of those really just developed partnerships, like Vermont, when we deployed to Afghanistan a decade ago, there was North Macedonian Army soldiers with us.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, is like they said, like, no, like, you're our partner, we're going with you. Like, we want to send folks.
That's fantastic.
And we're like, that's awesome. Like, that's not something they had to do.
No.
It's not. And they're like, no, like, we're going with you. Like, that's what we want to do.
That's
and so it's just one of those things of they want to do that. And I get to see it where I've done some of these trips and people that have been friends for like a decade. And like they get to see each other on these SPP trips and work together and again. And it was like the best and worst one I saw was when I was in Senegal, and it was these two guys, and he did not think he was getting ready to get out of the military. He's like, he did not plan on ever being able to return to Senegal again. And seeing him like become so emotional with the major that he's known now for like over a decade. They've done all these projects together. Yeah. And he's like, this is probably the last time I'll be able to see him in his home. And I'm like,
yeah, right in the heart, man.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah. But I was like, and that's the thing is like, he's just saying goodbye to like his friend. Like, now luckily he's been able to like see him more and things like that. But it's just one of those things of like, okay, that's the type of partnership that you're building in all of these. Yeah. And it's the idea of like, no, it's not this quick rotation of like, okay, let's go do this training. All right, we're done. Hey, we'll see you later. You know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, never talk to you again. Bye. It's like they're reaching out and doing those things. And I mean, we look at it in different things of like Ukraine reaching out to their state partnership in California. That's like a big one. Like they trust them. Yeah. And that's the thing is like Colonel McEvers, who like, yeah, he's got to come on the podcast. Like it absolutely has to, so he can like explain like just how in depth.
Agreed.
It is, and it's like one of those things of like, no, it's like they're going to reach out to like who they trust. Yeah. And that's the thing is like they want that partnership with us, and like we want it with them, because it's like, and the people are sending texting like, you know, through WhatsApp or Signal, like, hey, what are you guys up to? Like, what's going on over there? If there is that natural disaster, like, hey, we heard this happen, like, you know, praying for you guys, like.
Well, 100%, and that's the crazy thing. I mean, the state partnership program works so well. I don't want to brag about the National Guard here, you know, because it's very like, you know, the North Dakota National Guard and Togo Benin, you know, they're all state-driven. You know, they're not necessarily always countries. It's just parts of, you know, states, technically districts or states or provinces of countries, you know, that we have worked with. But, yeah, I mean, you get to meet the people rather than just have to deal with the backdoor side of things, which, you know, for the soldiers, I mean, the guys doing all the work, you know, like that's such a beneficial thing. So, yeah, I love that. Love that. Okay, well, I think for the next topic, we'll kind of talk about, you know, we talked about state partnership program and all this other stuff, so, you know, benefits X, Y, and Z. What do you think about this younger generation of people, whether they join the Guard, hope to join the Guard, but, like, I have a lot of young soldiers, right, being now an NCOIC, and it's always, I don't have the opportunity or don't have an opportunity. I don't have an opportunity. Do you think that we need to bump that up? I mean, especially for somebody coming from Vermont to North Dakota. Like, you've been here for a month now. I don't expect you to be the coffee guru, you know, when it comes to all and everything. But when it comes to bringing drive into just even the workforce on full-time, what do you think the best answer is for that? Or do we have the right tools for it? Is that's good enough? Or what do you think is our pros and cons?
So moving here, like in the first month, it was one thing I noticed was just how much support the National Guard has, like locally. Like it was awesome to see. Like you go in, and you're like, wow, like you guys are extremely supported by regular people on the street, just coming up, talking. The congressional delegation, like just showing up to events, and I'm like, wow, like they're driving all over the state, because like it's, you know, hard to get there from here, right? But the thing, like they're showing up to events, like local elected leaders are showing up to events. Business people are showing up to events. I'm like, okay, I'm like, the community's bought in. Like they they have faith in what's going on here, which is awesome to see. But it's also like, it's not just the National Guard that's struggling. Like businesses are struggling to find. And in my mind, I'm like, where did they all go? Like, where are the people with these things? And like, you know, people talk about like quiet quitting or like not wanting that, but it still hasn't changed the fact of people want a job with purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is that's one of the like top things in like surveys. Like I can't run off the survey names on top of my head, but like where people are like, why they want to work somewhere is because like that organization has like a conscience. Yeah. They have a purpose. There's a reason for what they're doing. Like it's not the idea of like, oh, that's a good job, benefits are great, pays good. Yeah, go clock in 9 to 5 for the next 30 years and collect your pension.
Black and white, man.
That used to be like that used to be the thing of like, hey, just do the job, get it done. Like no, people are like, no, I want to work there because of X, Y, and Z, and it's like they have purpose and these are things, and this is the bigger picture they're working for. Right. And I'm like, that's literally the existence of the National Guard. Like that's why they exist.
Yeah. No, 100%.
So but it's one of those things of where people don't think they have that option, or they think it might be too difficult to get in, and so it's trying to break down some of those stereotypes of, well, the only people that serve are legacy members of like my parents were in, my family was in, because that's where a lot of people get their service from. Is like, and I'm an example of that. It's like my father was in the military, my brothers served in the military, grandparents. So it's like, okay, like I'm that running stereotype of the reason I'm in the military is because I had family in the military. But there's also like new people of like, no, they have like no connection. So like, how are you getting that new connection of service? Because like, it's one of the things you want of like, okay, like, yeah, you want to get education. Like, yeah, that's the thing you can have here. Like you want to get training. That's the thing. It was like, okay, I want purpose. Yes, that's what they do. Like when a natural disaster happens, like it's a National Guard. You call the National Guard. Like that's who you work with. And they're going to work with, domestic response and local agencies to solve things like flooding, snow. Any of those natural disasters, like you're calling the National Guard to do those things. And the same thing is like you talk about the federal mission of like, no, like you're going overseas to work on the federal mission as well, like more purpose. Like there's not, and people will get run down on like all the like the mundane things you do, like, okay, I got this paperwork, I got this admin, I need to do this and that. Like, yes, but you're all leading towards that purpose. Yeah. And it feeds into that.
Yeah, and those experiences that you do get, I mean, for me, as a younger kid that joined, I mean, I was a 96 baby. I'm roughly around that generation where it's like, I 100% want purpose. I want everything that I do to make a change. I want to be that difference. And like the opportunities just here, like, yeah, you got to do the mundane stuff. You got to listen to meetings. You got to go to briefings and hoopla to hoopla. Like that's life. Like it's literally a secondary.
Yeah, it's not going to change anywhere
life.
You go. Like if you think Fortune 500 companies aren't doing that, you're wrong.
Yeah. I worked at Starbucks. Trust me, at a meeting with your boss saying your cappuccino sales or you're mixing a frappuccino wrong. Like, come on. Like, you have to deal with that stuff. But what really matters is the people you work with and the experiences you have with other people in that environment or X, Y, and Z. So when we talk about, there's mundane stuff, but there's just so much opportunity. If I hadn't joined the Guard at the time that I did and done what I needed to do, like, oh my gosh, like I'd be living probably with my parents. And not saying that's a bad thing because, hey, if anyone's living at home with their parents right now, I'm not judging you. But as an older, person now, like if I was still living with my parents, didn't have anything set going for me, like if anything, this has boosted my opportunities. And not even just internally, externally. Like, I mean, like you said, community driven. Like the community is at every event that we do. They want to support us at like full capacity. Like we ask and they say, sure. What else do you need? It's never, especially North Dakota. I mean, gosh, this state is so awesome. And I think it's because, like you said before, there's such a tradition here of military service members, whether they were North Dakotan people and then they left to join the active side and left North Dakota and then came back. Like there's just, and that goes with every state, but yeah, the opportunities here are just, it's stupid crazy. Like we have a historian's office. Like what? I didn't know we had.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, that's phenomenal. Like, so like day one in the office, in the afternoon, one of the first places I went, like day one, went out to the cemetery. And I'm like, what do you, I'm like, and I just showed up there, I'm like, like it's just a gorgeous area.
Yes.
And I'm like, I can't believe you guys have this. I'm like, this is, and like, and then, they're working on like expanding it too. And like,
yeah, the columbarium.
Yeah, so they'll be opening that up, and I'm like, wow, it's in immaculate shape. The care out there is just like full staff. Like when I was out there, like they're all there, like doing like all of the work, and I'm like, okay, like, and that's like the end, like that's the final like part of your military service where somebody can like honor that person and their service, and I'm like, okay, you got like from start to finish, everything here as just immense pride in military service. And of course that's not just a National Guard thing, like that's a military thing for North Dakotans. And I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, okay, like, this is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and that's like, gosh, when I found out, so you travel with a lot of being in the service so long, you travel, and like you said, you stopped at the vet center the first time, and like I've done the same thing. I'll go to a veteran cemetery, see what it's like, see if and it's again, for anyone listening right now, if you live in the Bismarck-Mandan area and you haven't visited the vet cemetery, check it out. What they do there is so fantastic. It's insane. The amount of workers that they have for the work that they do, and just also the precision of what they get to do. It's insane. To have basically a national veteran cemetery within the state of North Dakota is like, first off, an honor, but just insane. Like,
yeah, and that's the thing. So like I've been in DC a bunch, and I've been to Arlington. Like Arlington too is like, it's just a gorgeous place, and like for people that are buried there, it's like that's an honor to be there. Mm-hmm. But it's like I'd say it's like mirrors it, right? It's not on the scale of Arlington, of course, because it's a state, here
600,000 to compared to.
But it's the idea of like that you could tell like the care. Yes. And like the design and how things are like take care of it. It's not like where you go some places and like it's I'd say it's sad like when you go to like some really old cemeteries that are in small towns that just they don't receive that level of care just because either the funding's not there, it's not they don't have the volunteers for it, or they don't have the working staff for it. Where I show up there, I'm like, wow, my God, like the grass just looks perfect. Yeah, like all the headstones like look great. And like the building is immaculate. Like you walk in, I walked in the building, like, oh man, this is a phenomenal like center, and like. And that's the other thing is like one of the first things Bill said is the Memorial Day that you all do here at the cemetery is just like a massive undertaking.
Oh, it's huge.
And like the turnout, they're like, oh no, like you're parking far away and walking.
Yeah, I mean, we'll shuttle. I mean, it's so big. I mean, we have to actually shuttle people from the interstate, the highway, to the vets, like to the top of the step. It's crazy. And I mean, going into like the immaculate condition and also the support that goes into it, we do something called, or there's a program called Wreaths Across America, and I've attended this, I want to say, for the last 3 years. But last year I was able to just take photos for the first time. Usually I participate and help load the trailers and then go help put them on the stones. And this last year we had a massive storm. I'm talking 10-plus foot drifts. And the event usually starts in the afternoon, and by 10 o'clock, there were hundreds of cars and hundreds of people digging with shovels to get to headstones just to show them and put a wreath. Like, that's, I mean, as a person just sitting there and watching, if that doesn't, like, shoot, crap. Pardon me, I'm going to swear here, but, like, if that doesn't hit your heartstring or, like, doesn't realize how big of, like, a community North Dakota has, like,
yeah, because you could have easily phoned it in and been like, we'll get to it next week.
Yeah,
well, no, okay, no. We could, yes, you get to, but like that's not the day. Like, that's not the day we're doing it. Like today's the day we said we're doing the thing. We're doing the thing today.
Yes,
and so that was one of the things I said. Like you talk about shuttling people in. I'm like, what do you mean you shuttle people in? And they're like, oh, like there's not enough room for everyone that shows up. That we do shuttles and we just keep sending shuttle after shuttle.
Yep.
And I'm like, to hear that, I'm like, how big Memorial Day? I'm like, okay. I'm like, because usually that's a very big remembrance holiday, like across the U.S. Like in Vermont, like we do a pretty big ceremony, but like we don't have to shuttle in people.
No.
So when I heard that, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's gonna be a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking. I mean, because I mean, usually, I mean, the guard, the state will put out like, hey, we need X amount of many soldiers to help shuttle. And a lot of the times these are younger soldiers or, airmen, whoever, and they will do this thing. And that's another benefit to how awesome like that is that the community, whether they're retired veterans attending Memorial Day, because or if it's just a person wanting to attend, that has no military X, Y, and Z, they get that younger soldier that's like the driver and that's shuttling them up. That is such good, just like interaction, but also just exposure for I mean, come on. Like when I was young and somebody saw me in uniform and they said, hey, thanks for your service. And I'm like, blushing and practically like, but I mean, like you look at that now and it's like, those are the things that you want your soldiers to have experience with, to talk to people, to be more human in front. Yeah, we wear a uniform. It stands for something. And all the people that's worn it in the past and the alterations of the uniform. But like that's the interaction that the North Dakota National Guard has with its community. Compared to maybe like couple other ones, it's like no, like our soldiers.
And that's the goal is to be, they keep talking about want to be the most military friendly state in the country. And I'm like picking up on that so hard, even here in such a short amount of time of like, no. Like it's not lip service. It's like that's our goal, and we're going to make that happen, and we're going to fight other states to be recognized.
Bring it on, South Dakota. Bring it on.
As the most. There's a reason I'm in North and not South.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things of like, like that's what we're working for, and it's just crazy to see that. And like when I showed up here, that's everybody that I've talked to in the National Guard so far is like, no, our elected officials, like, they show up to everything. Yeah. I've already said that, but they show up and like, no, like, they bend over backwards.
They're everywhere.
To make sure we have the support, funding, resources, people, like, whatever we need, like, they're fighting for and making sure we get that resource because they want us to be successful.
Yep.
Because they also know, their success is our success.
Correct.
So it's not this, like, competing interest. It's like, no, like, if we support the Guard on these, they can help us in the future when we have that flood or this, winter, if we have a snow emergency, we need removal or we need people to get out there and do that. Like, that can occur. Or, it's summer and wildfires are happening. We can count on them to transport people, dump water, get resources out there, provide security for events. So it's the idea of we're going to benefit from their success. And when we help them reach their potential, we're also benefiting for it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not this
military
like...
and community-wise. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, and
I'm sure Governor Burgum, currently running Governor Burgum for president, probably listening behind the door right now being like, I wonder what they're saying. I want to be on the podcast, too. Next thing you know, we'll have Senator Kramer and Senator Hovind here, and they'll say, the band's great, and I'll be like, thanks, sir.
Well, that's the thing. Like he gave him a shout-out at a ceremony like a couple weekends ago. I'm like, he knows them by name.
Yeah, we have a photo of Senator Hovind conducting the 188th Army Band, like back when I don't know what year it was, but back when Senator Hovind was, governor of North Dakota, and I was like, holy cow. And then now I know why he gives us all the... I think at one point in time he called us the special forces of the Army Bandsmen. So for any of you active Army people listening out there...
You're going to have him crushing down the door.
You take that back. How many hours do you practice a day? Not enough.
Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump them.
Exactly. Well, that's all we've got time for today. But hey, if you're listening online and you enjoyed the Guards podcast, feel free to give us a like. Or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We don't just make a podcast. We take a lot of photos and make a lot of videos of soldiers and airmen doing awesome things within the state of North Dakota. And with that, we'll catch you next time.